We're going to turn now to the turmoil from the failure of two major banks. Customers lined up yesterday outside the headquarters of Silicon Valley Bank in Santa Clara, California, hoping to get their money back. And earlier, trading was temporarily halted for more than a dozen other regional banks as their stock took a hit. That's despite federal action designed to calm the markets. Errol Barnett is outside the headquarters of Silicon Valley Bank once again for us. That bank being sued now by shareholders, investors who have been wiped out. Errol, good morning.
Tony, good morning to you. And that lawsuit now, class action lawsuit being built by shareholders, is just one of the fresh headlines. The Federal Reserve Board also reviewing its oversight of this institution. And the customers I spoke with all lined up yesterday. Yes, they're relieved. They're now getting some access to their money, but they are deeply frustrated that any of this happened in the first place.
Are you satisfied with the service you received today and what the FDIC is telling you happens next?
Sort of.
It was a somber morning.
There's a lot of volume. There's a lot of people accessing their money.
As representatives from the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC, greeted customers of Silicon Valley Bank waiting outside headquarters for hours just for a chance to withdraw their deposits.
You could either do it with the cashier's check, cash, or wire. And you have to be pre-set up to do the wire, so it left the cash and cashier's check. And who wants to carry out a bag full of money out into their car?
Bob B. opened a personal account with SVB around 2 decades ago. At risk, most of his life savings.
The officers of the company causes a bank to crash like they did here, and people are losing money. They should go to jail.
Similar scenes took place at Signature Bank in New York, which dealt heavily in cryptocurrency and failed just 2 days after SVB.
I cannot believe it.
Despite the government's intervention, the volatility during Monday's trading proved investors are still nervous about contagion. In fact, trading halted for at least 20 other regional banks after steep drops. First Republic was down more than 60%. Meanwhile, CBS News has learned SVB was operating without a chief risk officer for months before one was hired in January. President Biden said those responsible for the collapse of these banks will be held accountable.
I'm going to ask Congress and the banking regulators to strengthen the rules for banks.
And repeated that none of the losses would be paid for by taxpayers.
Instead, the money will come from the fees that banks pay into the Deposit Insurance Fund.
Now, federal officials say they plan to auction off what's left of SVB as far as its assets. And that class action lawsuit we reference claims that those who led this company concealed how raising interest rates left the bank susceptible to liquidity issues. Tony?
All right, Errol, thank you very much.